Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Augustine. I welcome you to my series on complex numbers. Now, we'll be looking at how to simplify these complex numbers. If you not watched my lesson on Introduction to Complex Numbers, that is definition and then identifying the real part and then the imaginary parts of complex numbers, check the description for that video. It will also help you. Now, let us start with number 1. We have the square root of negative 12. How do we simplify this? We said that the complex number is any number of the form z equal to a plus b I, where a is the real part and b is the imaginary part, such that I squared is equal to negative 1. So it means that if I have square root of negative 1, that is what we write it as I. Very simple as that. Because if I have square root of negative 1 squared, the square will cancel the square root and I'm going to have negative 1. So I simply means square root of negative 1 as we've done it here. Now, how do we simplify this? Then it means that from the basic law of Z, if I have root A times root B, it is equal to root A times B. So we are going to use this here. So this is the same as root of 12 times root of negative 1. And that root of negative 1 is I. Other people use J, but we are using I. So you're going to have I root 12, which is equal to root 12 is the same as 4 times 3 under the square root, and now we are going to have root 4 is 2, so you are going to have 2i root 3, which can be written as 2 root 3, then you can bring the I to the back. So what is the imaginary part of this complex number, and what is the real part of this complex number? So that the complex number should be written in the form a plus bi, but this one is written in the form a times 0 plus bi. So here the real part, that is the real part of z, is equal to 0, and the imaginary part of z equal to 2 root 3. Very simple as that. Now let's go to the second one. Now, if you consider the second one, we have I to the power 100. Now, we do this as I squared to the power 50. Because we know from the basic laws of exponent that if you have a to the power n raised to the power m, we are going to have a n times m. Now, we are saying that I squared is equal to negative 1. So it implies that we are going to have negative 1 exponent 50. And you see that if you have a number and a negative number raised to the power of even number, the answer becomes an even number. So here the answer is positive 1. Very simple as that. So here I to the power 100 is positive 1. Let's check it and see. If I have negative 2 squared, I'll get positive 4. If I have negative 2 to the power 4, I'll get positive 16. So if you have a number which is negative raised to the power an even number, you get an even number. Very simple as that. So here we only have the real part plus 0r. We don't have any imaginary part. So for this complex number, the real part of z is positive 1 and the imaginary part of z is 0. Very simple as that. Now, let us go to the third question. If we consider the third question, we have minus 3 and then square root of negative 18, which is the same as minus 3, then square root of positive 18 times square root of negative 1. Sorry, yeah, negative 1. Yes, that is it. This is the same as minus 3, square root of 9 times 2, then times r, because square root of negative 1 is r. So this is minus 3 times root 9 is 3, then you have root 2 times I. Negative 3 times 3 will give us negative 9 root 2, then we bring I here. Very simple as that. So this one, the real part of z is 0 because we don't have any real parts. And the imaginary part of z is negative 9 root 2. So if you simplify this, this is the answer that you are going to get. Now, let's take root of negative 25. So if we take root of negative 25, we are going to get root of 25 times root of negative 1, which will give us 5, and root of negative 1 is I. So here, the real part of z is 0, and the imaginary part of z is positive 5. Very simple as that. Now, number 4. Let's take number 4. If we consider number 4, we have I to the power 3, and then I to the power 3 is the same as I squared dot I. Because we know from the basic law of exponents or indices that if I have a exponent n times a exponent b, it is equal to a exponent n plus b. So here if we add 2 to 1, we get the 3 that we have here. Now we know that I is the same as square root of negative 1. And we have said that I squared is the same as negative 1. So we have root of negative 1 squared dot I, which will give us negative I. Because here the square will cancel the square root. We have negative 1 times I will give us negative I. So that is I cube. Now let's take the next one and see what we are going to get. So here, what is the real part? Here the real part of z is 0 and the imaginary part of z is negative 1. Now let us look at number 6. Hey, from number 4 to number 6. Okay, number 5, then number 6. So if we consider number 5, we have square root of minus 3 times square root of minus 12. Now, don't think you are going to do it as a square root of minus 3 times minus 12, which will give us square root of 36. Please, if you go this way, you are not there. Let's see how we do it. This is the same as square root of 3 times square root of negative I times square root of 12 times square root of negative I. Now, we are going to have, negative 1. Oh, it's not negative I. It's negative 1. So here we are going to have I root 3 times I root 4 times 3. That is 12. So this will give me I root 3 and then times 2 root 3 I. Because here root 4 will give me 2 and a half 3. So this will give me 2 into bracket root 3 times root 3 times I squared. You see this one? That is I squared. Because I times I will give me I squared. So here, root 3 times root 3 will give me 3. 3 times 2 will give me 6. And what is I squared? I is the same as root of negative 1. So if we square this one, the square will cancel the square root. 6 times negative 1 will give me negative 6. Very simple as that. Now let's look at the last one. Let's look at the last one. That is I to the power positive 25. So if we look at that one, so here we only have the real part of z equal to negative 6. We don't have any plus b I here. Because here we don't have, this is 0. So here the imaginary part of z is equal to 0. That is what we have. Now, if we take I to the power 25, it is the same as writing I to the power 24 times I. And now we are going to have I to the power 2 to the power 12 dot I. Or 2 times 12 will give us 24. And we know that I is square root of negative 1. So we bring the squared and we further bring to the power 12 dot I. So if we come here, this square will cancel this square and we have negative 1 to the power 12 dot I. And we know that negative number raised to the power an even number is a positive number. So here we are going to have positive 1 times I, this is times, and that will give us I. So I to the power positive 25 is equal to I. Thank you for watching and please subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on my Facebook page, Maths with Vim. Bye bye.